Okay, problem 4. N minus 2 divided by 7 equals negative 2. Um, when we are trying to isolate the variable, undo everything that's happening to the variable to get it by itself, we have to consider what is the order with which we would do it, order of operations, if we knew the number. So I'm just going to, let's say, make up a number. All right, let's say it's 100. It's not, but let's say it was. What would we do for order of operations? Would we do the division first, or would we do the subtraction? Okay, well, when you have a fraction bar like this, there's an invisible parentheses like that around the top, okay? Meaning that would have to get done first, then the division by 7. Okay, why do I do all that? Because when we're considering this right here, we have to say, okay, what do we have to undo first? And whatever happened last is what we undo first. Since there's invisible parentheses around here, the minus 2 would happen first, then divided by 7. So since that's the last thing happening, it's the first thing we undo. How do we undo divided by 7? We undo it with a times 7. So we put 7 in the front, and then parentheses, everything that's on that left-hand side inside. We want to multiply the entire left-hand side by 7, so that's why we put it in parentheses. Okay, that way, if there's multiple terms in there, we can do order of operations. I'm not sorry, not order of operations, but the distributive property and multiply all of the things. Okay, so 7 parentheses, everything that's there, equals 7 parentheses, everything that's there. And the reason that we picked this times 7 is it does this divided by 7. Those two cancel out. Don't cross them out. We're not trying to put extra marks, but that undoes that, leaving you just n minus 2. Okay, n minus 2 equals. And we simplify this. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. Now what's happening to n? 2 is being subtracted from it. Okay, and I'm trying to teach you to not say, what do kids say? It's being subtracted by negative 2. Okay, that's not how you say it. It's not being subtracted by something. 2 is being subtracted from it. Okay, what's happening to n? 2 is being subtracted from it. That's how you say it. So n minus 2, how do we undo that minus 2 with a plus 2, right? What's there first? Plus 2. Right, what's there first? Plus 2. If you do it to one side, you do it to the other. Now, these two undo each other, leaving you n, and negative 14 plus 2, these two positives cancel out 2 of these 14 negatives, and if 2 of them are canceled out, the other 12 of them, the other 12 negatives remain, n equals negative 12. Put a box around it. Now, for a proof, write proof, then write your original equation unchanged. Where n was, we put parentheses, everything else stays exactly the same, parentheses negative 12. Minus 2 over 7 equals negative 2. Just like up here, just that is replaced with parentheses and what it is worth. Now, as you can see here, this is the point where, what do we do now? Well, what are we doing now is that. There's invisible kind of brackets there saying, this top has to get done first, this has to get done first before you do the divided by 7. So let's do that first. Negative 12, go down another 2, you're down 14. That is negative 14. Rewrite everything else the same. Over 7 equals negative 2. And what is negative 14 divided by 7? Negative divided by positive is negative. 14 divided by 7 is 2. So negative 2 equals negative 2. Check. Okay, number 5. Once again, you don't see them, but there is invisible parentheses here, okay? Because when we're determining what happens first and what happens last, in order to know what to undo, we say, well, the first thing you would do if you know what W was, would be to add it, okay? Then you would divide by negative 3. Since that's the last thing that happens in order of operations, it's the first thing that gets undone. How do you undo divided by negative 3? Times negative 3. Okay, we don't have the parentheses there. We just know they exist invisibly. So how do we undo this? Divided by negative 3 times negative 3. And again, I've said this in other videos. Why do we write the negative 3 there in the front? Because if we didn't write it there in the front and instead we wrote it in the back like that, multiply by negative 3 like that, then we're not actually multiplying by negative 3. That says subtract 3, okay? And you might still multiply, and when you get to the next line, you did multiply, but this doesn't say multiply. So you're writing something different than what you're doing, and we can't be miscommunicating like that. If we mean to multiply by negative 3, we got to write it in a way that actually says we're multiplying by negative 3. And how is that? That's written in the front. Negative 3 parentheses. Everything that's on that side equals negative 3 parentheses everything that's there. Okay? These two undo each other, leaving you with 22 plus W. This part that was not canceled out. This was canceled out by this. This remains, and this on the next line. Negative 3 times negative 7. Negative times negative is positive. We don't have to write a plus. It's just not a negative, so we don't write a negative. We just say 3 times 7 is 21. Positive 21 is just written like that. Now, at this stage, you just need to say, okay, what's happening to W? Well, 22 is being added to it. So how do we undo it? Minus 22. Minus 22 will undo this and leave you just with W. So you take what's there, minus 22 at the end, equals 21, what's there, minus 22 at the end. These two, by the way, what I don't want you to do is write 22 minus 22 plus W, okay? While that is equivalent, the problem with it is you're burying your change into the middle, and it makes it difficult for somebody who's analyzing it to see that you truly did write everything the same, and that's your change. You wrote everything the same, and that's your same change, okay? So again, by putting it in the middle, like next to the thing you're subtracting it from, it actually is a little bit more confusing for people who are analyzing your work. And what we're trying to do is communicate what we're doing to others. So what do? We take what's already there and write it first, then our change at the end. We take what's already there first, and then our change at the end. And it makes it very easy for someone who's analyzing the work to say, oh yeah, they just took what was already there and they made a change to it. They took what was already there and they made the same change to it. Very easy to see. Okay, now this and this undo each other. They don't need to be right next to each other to know that. They're like terms. No matter where they are, they're on the left-hand side. They're both on the left-hand side. So when things are on the left-hand side and they're like terms, we can combine them. That combines to 0, leaving just W. And what's 21 take away 22? Well, if you're 21 above 0 and you drop 22, the first 21 that you drop gets you to 0, and there's one more to drop, and that's why you end up 1 below 0. Okay, so W equals negative 1. Box it for your proof. Rewrite the original equation unchanged. This is a fraction problem, so you should be using 2 lines. One line is everything that's in your numerator. The other line is what's in your denominator. Okay, we're not writing across the blue lines. Okay, the blue lines tell us what to stay between. Consider them like lanes of traffic. Lanes of traffic. There's cars driving in this direction. There's cars driving in this direction. Okay, and this is the line that separates them. Cars should be staying in between the lines, in their lanes, and that's what I want you to be doing with the numbers that you write. Okay, so write your fraction like this, equals, and this is a whole number. You're going to put it, don't put minus 7 across the blue lines. What I mean by the blue lines is these blue lines of the page, right? Your number shouldn't be crossing them. You should be writing your number just on the top, since it's a whole number. Okay, it's an integer rather. Okay, because remember, it's invisibly over 1, and that would be the denominator. So that denominator would be that bottom line, but it's invisible, so we're not writing it. But what we are writing is the numerator, which we can see on the top line. Okay, stay in your lines. So we take the original equation unchanged, then we substitute in where there was W, we put in parentheses negative 1. Everything else stays exactly the same as it was in the original equation. Then we resolve this first. Remember, with the invisible parentheses, we have to do all of this as the first step. Then we will divide by negative 3. So 22 plus negative 1, it's the same as 22 minus 1, which is 21. That resolves to 21. Everything else is written exactly the same. And now on this line, 21 divided by negative 3, positive divided by negative is negative. 21 divided by 3 is 7 equals, sorry, so negative 7 equals negative 7. Check.